this is Dr. Ron England, and we're going to talk about outcome assessment and faculty course evaluations. Part of the assessment process in most courses is to look at individual course outcomes and assess how well students are performing on these individual course assessments. In the past, we used Excel spreadsheets and hand exporting and importing data to be able to perform these assessments. This is a legacy Excel file that does a faculty course assessment, and if you note, it's got a lot of different formats of the different different tabs in the spreadsheet, and each tab is an offering of the course. So essentially the process would be take an old tab, copy and paste it into a new tab, and enter the data for the new offering. I'm looking to actually make that a little bit more streamlined. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with this legacy data. I'm going to import the Excel file. Now what I need to do here is I need to close the file because I am going to be bringing it in. So I'm going to import an Excel file, and that file was this one right here, the one that you just saw. So I'm going to open it up, and it was pretty fast that it could actually go ahead and bring in that data. Now what it does is it has a number of things that it looks for programmatically, and if it can't solve all those problems, it actually then goes out and sends the file, sends it to an AI. This is an AI enabled application, and you do need to have an API key to run it with the AI mode, and it goes out and it finds the information. So let's look and see what that information actually is. So for every offering of a course that we're going to assess, we're assessing individual measures. Measures of course outcomes. So in this case, the course has 4 outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you look at the individual tabs, there's course and outcomes, which is one we're looking at. Grade and distribution, that's the grade distribution. Outcomes and outcome measures. So each outcome has a specific measure in the course to measure that outcome. And then we have some narratives. The narratives in this program are lessons learned and successes, issues, concerns, and deficiencies, proposed improvements, and then results of the improvements. Now we do have some metadata, and we do map our outcomes to, the outcomes specifically to course outcomes. So in other words, program outcomes. Course outcome goes to an SLO, which is actually the abbreviation for a program outcome. It's a student learning outcome. Now, that means you have to enter the student learning outcomes. Well, I have this little SLO ref button here. It's a reference to SLOs. And if you look down here, you've got an import doc or import URL. The import URL will actually allow you to point the program to the catalog web page, and it will programmatically extract the outcome statements for the numbered student learning outcomes. That does mean that your course outcomes should match the numbered student outcomes that you actually publish in your catalog. But it will do that. And we don't need to save it. We've already done this. Now, that is pulling in the legacy data for a faculty course evaluation. What else might you need to do? Well, you know what? You need to make a new FCE for a new offering of the course. So what I have done is I've gone to my course and I've exported. Now I'm using, in this case, Brightspace, but it does not matter what tool you use. The course offering has these assignments. These are all the graded items in the course exported as a spreadsheet in this case. But that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. You can also export it as a CSV file, and the program will be able to handle those files. Now this is the applied database grade export from a specific date for the fall 25 offering, which is what I want to add here. So I'm going to say new offering. I'm going to go to that offering, FA 25. Okay, that is the fall semester of year 2025. That's kind of important if you want to do any specific type of analysis with there's multiple tools in this suite. This is part of a suite. One of the suites is an analysis tool. Another one of the suite things is a tool that generates reports, and it actually can use export templates, which are basically, if somebody gives you a format they need the report in, it will figure out how to template out that report and generate it in that format. Now, for this case, I need to import a grade roster for this specific, and notice it's unlabeled because I haven't saved it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and import a grade roster. So I'm going to browse for the file. Okay, that was for, that's the actual grade roster there. So I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to hit the next button. Now, it's going to ask you some questions and how you're going to do the grades. First, how are you doing the grade? What's the column for the final grade? Okay, it did correctly guess the right one, so I don't need to make any changes, but it does show you that it's got all the columns in that spreadsheet for you to look at. Also, what is your grading scale? How do you actually define this? This is one of the things that you do need to look at, is how do you handle ungraded assignments or whatever, because remember, you're going to use the things that are in your grading to measure outcomes. So, are you going to, if it's blank or null, are you going to exclude it or count it as a 0? And if it's a 0, are you going to count it as something that students submitted and it's actually going to count in the number of students, or are you going to treat it as a not submitted? I typically count the blank ones and the zeros as the students, students did not turn it in. So that's how I typically go with that. Notice it gave you a preview. There were actually 21 students in the grade book there, so it gave me a preview of all 21. I hit next. Now comes the big part. What do you use to assess? I know that for assessing course outcome 1, and notice it's a tab where I can do multiples. Okay, if you do multiples, what it's going to do is it's going to give you the column, and it's going to give you the average if there's multiple columns. If I take that away, the average will go away. So I use A1 for course outcome 1. I use A3 for course outcome 2. I use A4 for course outcome 3. And for course outcome 4, I use PA3. Those are good. Now you can use multiple, and probably will add something here that if you feed it the assignment, it will suggest what course outcome it goes with. So you might as well do that, but that's not built in right now. Then I'm going to hit the next button, and it's going to go ahead and give you a preview of what information it has. Notice that I've got one that's nice and bright red, because that PA3 was a real clincher for a lot of students, but they, and I actually look at it this way. I could probably go back and look at, so if I went back and said, I just from looking at that, I know that when I've got other assignments that actually cover CA4 in the class itself. Oops, I don't need to go that way. So, and some of those are actually in the graded discussion pieces. So I might want to add other ones to it, because I did have a really hard assignment. Getting to that final project assignment and getting that 100% right was just challenging, but it was meant to be challenging. Most of the students made it through PA1 and PA2 just fine. Okay, so as I look at CO4, and I noted though, however, that was a struggle there. So, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and import it, and voila, I now have FA25 with the outcomes, just like I did before. The grading distribution, just with the courses, the outcomes and the specific measures that go with them, and the narratives. What I'm going to have to do with the narratives is look at and say things like students overall performed well. PA3, which was the project assignment 3, was challenging. Okay, it was a challenging one. It is used to measure CO4. Additional measures might give a better representation. And you might be tempted to go ahead and say, oh, I'm going to just make PA3 a little bit less challenging. But I didn't have an overall issue with the overall performance of the class. I actually said that in lessons learned. Proposed improvements, however, give extra time for the completion of PA3. Another thing that I noted myself from the course was students had a difficult time working in a group. And that was just from anecdotal from what I got from the students. And the proposed improvements would be additional emphasis on the importance of group work. Okay, there you go. Now, that would be it, and I've got my save a little bit off the screen here. So what we've got here is we've gone ahead and done the whole thing, and I should be able to go out of there. Notice that FA25 just jumped in there as I clicked out of it. And now I can say, well, it's already saved. So, but if as you try to close, it'll actually do that. So it'll save it. So I have now put all my information together, and I am going to save it as I close. It is a CIATLE-FCE file. I actually want to put it all in the same directory with my other courses, and I now save that. I have the ability to now send that on for the aggregation, which is a different tool, and my faculty course evaluation is now done. Hooray!